So in anaerobic respiration, as mentioned earlier on, we are using the absence of oxygen and only a small amount of energy is being released. It happens in both humans and yeast. So why is it that aerobic respiration, it produces so much energy, but anaerobic respiration can also take place in humans? So think about it, if you are doing a very short run, you will have rapid muscle contraction, correct? When you just suddenly run, you have got rapid muscle contraction. So because of this, your aerobic respiration is unable to start immediately. So what happens during this period of time is the anaerobic respiration will take over first in order to compensate for the amount of energy that is required suddenly. Okay, in yeast, we will have something slightly different. You will have the presence of ethanol. C2H5OH over here is the presence of ethanol, which is your essentially alcohol. So if you leave your parents' wine as being left out for a certain period of time, there will be some form of fermentation, or even in beers that are taking place and alcohol is being produced. Carbon dioxide energy is also being produced. So anaerobic respiration in muscles, this is what we talked about just now. When your muscles have sudden twitching and sudden contraction, lactic acid is being produced during this period. So lactic acid is the one that causes your muscle fatigue and your aching after a period of time if there are too much of it. When your anaerobic respiration takes place, then after some time your aerobic respiration will take over. So when your aerobic respiration takes over, that is when you have got sufficient oxygen. And this sufficient oxygen will help to pay back the oxygen that was happening during anaerobic respiration. So recall that your anaerobic respiration is insufficient oxygen because it does not require oxygen, resulting in the production of lactic acid. So when there is sufficient oxygen coming in, the oxygen debt is being repaid, and the excess lactic acid that was accumulated is oxidized in the liver. So during this oxidation in the liver, the lactic acid is converted to glucose. And since glucose is used for aerobic respiration, the converted glucose can now be used back for aerobic respiration. So next we will look at the experiments to investigate your respiration. It's quite straightforward. So germinating plants, they do not contain any leaves, so which means to say that they require your basic respiration, which is conversion of the glucose, of the sugars inside here into during respiration itself. So over here, your seeds itself will have enzymes that will break down the sugars in them into glucose, and the glucose will then be used as part of the respiration process in which heat is being released. Okay, so when heat is being released, you will see that there will be an increase in temperature, and that's when germination takes place. So once you have the first green leaf that sprouts up, photosynthesis can take over. Okay, but however, in bored seeds, what happens is that the enzymes inside them, which is responsible for converting the sugars into glucose, is no longer present because they have denatured. So therefore, there will not be any respiration that will be able to take place simply because there are not any sugars. So the next one is to investigate whether carbon dioxide is given off during respiration. So we have got potassium hydroxide here. So potassium hydroxide will take in the carbon dioxide gas from the atmosphere. So this is to prevent any additional carbon dioxide from going into the animal itself, because we want to investigate whether carbon dioxide is given off. So definitely you cannot afford to have carbon dioxide from atmospheric air, which is surrounding air in this flask. So carbon dioxide, which is an acidic oxide that you learned in chemistry, will be absorbed by the alkali potassium hydroxide. And this absorption is tested using lime water. So your lime water, your calcium hydroxide, is not supposed to turn milky, chalky, or have a white precipitate. So this will show that there is no carbon dioxide and all the potassium has absorbed the carbon dioxide. So in the lime water itself, after that, whatever air that enters into the flask here is not supposed to contain any carbon dioxide. So which means to say that if the animal inside here produces carbon dioxide during respiration, and it will be tested positive due to the presence of a milky color or chalky change in the lime water itself. Okay, so for chemistry we call it a white precipitate here. Alright, so moving down itself, the next one here. So how do you determine whether carbon dioxide is produced during anaerobic respiration? So we have got sugar solution here. This sugar solution is completely boiled before using it. So the boiling process will remove all your oxygen, remove any oxygen inside it. And we put in yeast because yeast itself is involved in anaerobic respiration under fermentation, which we looked at just now. If there is carbon dioxide being produced, this will be shown positive by a white precipitate at lime water itself. Okay, so that's the end of the first part of respiration.